Today I'll be looking at 5 potential replacements for Ronald Koeman at Barcelona. So first up, and we have Roberto Martinez, who's done pretty well at international level. He's taken his Belgium squad, well, to the semi-final, to the quarter-final of the last few competitions, and you could argue that's not quite good enough for the talent that he has in this squad, this Belgium golden generation, featuring the likes of Courtois, there was Vincent Kompany, now Eden Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku should be doing a little bit better. But when you consider the other opposition they've got in the international scene, maybe he's taken Belgium as far as they could go. But what this has done at international level is allowed him to build a bit of a reputation that he didn't quite build at club level. Of course, he was in charge of Swansea, Wigan and then Everton, and well, didn't exactly excel at either. With Wigan, he took them to relegation, but in the same season, an FA Cup shocking win over Manchester City in the final. He of course helped them stave off relegation quite a few times as well, but he's not exactly the kind of manager that you'd have in mind when moving to Barcelona. I mean, as far as omens go, it's not so great for Barca because the last manager they hired from an international team after formerly managing Everton was Ronald Koeman. So maybe Roberto Martinez route isn't quite a good fit. Tactically as well, he likes to play with 3 at the back, and whilst Barcelona seem hell-bent on introducing the 4-3-3 possession-based football, Martinez can at times be a little bit more dynamic with his team selection, and maybe when he feels he's got the right players, he could be switching to a 4-3-3. He is also on top of this a little bit defensive, and that might not really fit in to the whole Barcelona philosophy. Next up though, and talking of dynamic coaches, you've got someone who is very, very experienced, only just 43 years old with over 400 games in management to his name, and it's Andre Villas-Boas. Yes, he has been out of work since February, and the clubs that he's managed, including Chelsea, Tottenham, Zenit, Porto, amongst others, including Marseille as well, have been mixed results, let's say. In some places he's done really well, in others he hasn't quite managed to cut it at the top level, but he does have a history of trophies with Porto and Zenit, and who knows, maybe his style of play could actually suit Barcelona. He did learn under Jose Mourinho, and that makes him a little bit more of a defensive coach, but he does like a lot of possession-based football and can switch up to counter-attacking strategies as well. And maybe this will actually help if Barcelona could be on the front foot and try and win the ball back higher up the pitch instead of looking slow and languid when it comes to trying to defend, as we have seen in recent performances. Like I mentioned before, his philosophy may not be directly like Barcelona's, but he does have the ability to change as well in game situations, and this is something that Ronald Koeman has definitely not been able to do. It's making the change in the system or the tactic during the match when they've identified a weakness that has held Barcelona back, and if Villas-Boas can do this, he may be able to put forward a serious case for being chosen as the next manager. I mentioned that he's got 400 games of managerial experience behind him, and he's got 1.98 points per game during those matches, which isn't actually too bad a record either. Next up then, now we move to the number 1 manager, who's really in a bit of a conundrum here when it comes to Barcelona. I think he's the most experienced and the best choice of Barca, but when it comes to his philosophy and his style of play, he's possibly the worst choice, and that is Antonio Conte. We spoke about Roberto Martinez sticking to a 3-5-2. Antonio Conte does this and then some. Incredibly stubborn, likes his team to play exactly how he wants with his sort of players, and it's going to be very difficult, I feel, for him to come in mid-season. Antonio Conte wants ready-made players who are ready to win now. It doesn't matter if they're slightly older, doesn't necessarily focus on the youth academy, and this, to Koeman's credit, is something that he actually has done this season. Maybe a little bit out of necessity, but he's also brought in some quite exciting players who have gone on actually to be named in the Spanish squad. The thing is with Conte that maybe this is what Barcelona need. I know it's not going to please the board with his defensive philosophy. I know they don't want to play 3-5-2, but for the love of God, Barcelona need to stop conceding goals. If they can play a back 3 which turns to a back 5 when they're defending, be maybe a little bit ugly in the footballing style, and just stop conceding and try and become hard to beat and maybe win some more games, then they can start to move forward. Building a good defensive foundation is going to help Barcelona because they've got top quality attacking players. When the likes of Ansu Fati are fully fit and returned from injury, the same thing goes to Ousmane Dembele, Sergio Aguero, they've got Memphis Depay, who's a great player. It's all well and good having good attackers and scoring, but if you keep conceding at the other end, it's not really going to help the final result at the end of the game. For that reason, I think Conte could actually be a good choice. It's just not really a long-term appointment. At this point though, I will mention 3 other managers who deserve a bit of a shout out. There's 2 who have been linked with the job in Frank Lampard and Andrea Pirlo, and whilst those names hold incredible weight when it comes to their on-the-pitch footballing career, off the pitch things haven't gone so well for them managerially. Both have had stints at Juventus and Chelsea respectfully, and they haven't gone so well, and if they haven't managed to cut it at that sort of level, similar level to Barcelona, it's probably not a wise choice for those at the new camp to hire them. But the other name is Erik ten Hag. And this is a really bizarre one, basically why he hasn't left Ajax yet. No disrespect to Ajax, he's doing a fantastic job there. But after that run to the semi-final of the Champions League, all eyes were on the Dutch club. So much so that in that summer and the following years, they ended up selling the likes of De Jong's obviously at Barcelona, Hakim Ziyech left as well, Donny van der Beek went to Manchester United. So it's rather interesting that no real big club came in and offered ten Hag a job. Maybe they did and he rejected it, he just wanted to stay at Ajax. But in terms of philosophy and in terms of how Ajax play, you'd think he'd be a great fit, but on numerous occasions, the manager has said that he does not want to join a team mid-season and wants to work from the start of pre-season. So unless Barcelona are going to have an interim or just stick with Koeman until the end of the current campaign, I can't see ten Hag leaving his Ajax post. Right then, moving on from the honourable mentions and to a bit of an outside choice because he's never coached in Europe, but he has some record with River Plate in South America, and Marcelo Gallardo could be a very, very good choice. Like I mentioned before with Andre Villas-Boas, the main thing about Gallardo is he is very, very good at identifying and switching up the team dynamic within the game and basically reacting to what the other team is doing. He also plays very intense, high-octane football, and that really suits Barcelona. Well, it suits the Barcelona philosophy. It may not currently suit the players they've got now, especially some of the older ones in the squad. Gallardo would definitely be the kind of manager that comes in and really sets out a blueprint and a plan for how the next few years are going to go at Barcelona, not necessarily just steady the big ship this season. Gallardo's versatility is very good when it comes to his tactical selection, whether, like I said, he can play that fast-paced football or switch to a little bit more defensive, kind of like Jose Mourinho at Real Madrid. But one massive thing that he does and has done over his 7-year tenure at River Plate is look at the youth prospects. So many players have come through that club, and apparently he goes to every single youth match, not only identify future stars of the first team, but just to keep a track on how everybody is developing. This, of course, fits into the Barcelona philosophy, and with so many exciting youngsters at the club, they could actually do no worse than bringing in the manager. The only problem is that, like I mentioned, he hasn't managed in Europe before. It's not to say he won't be a success, it's just they'll probably go for someone with a bit more of a proven track record in big competitions in Europe. And on top of all of this, well, he's refused to comment on speculation. He said that he's focused on his job at the moment and his contract does run out in December. Whilst that's not too far away, just a few months, the Barcelona really want to wait with Koeman all the way until the end of the year where things could be in an even more dire situation. I'm not 100% convinced. And lastly but not least, we've got the obvious one, the return of the hero that everybody wants to see eventually, and it's Xavi. Now, the last few times that Barcelona have looked for a new manager before Koeman, before Quique Setien was there, remember that? That was a bit short-lived. Joan Laporta has said constantly that he would love to bring back Xavi to the club since his re-election as president, and the name Xavi has always been touted when those former managers, well, when they've either left or just before they've joined the club. The thing is, though, Laporta looks a little bit like he's not necessarily backing Koeman, but he's not exactly saying that the Dutchman will be leaving anytime soon. Of course, things can change very, very quickly in football, but he hasn't made an obvious case to say, yes, Koeman's under pressure and we're looking to bring Xavi in, which was one of his two promises when he ran for the presidency. He said he'd try and keep Lionel Messi, and obviously out of his hands was that decision because of the financial rules in the Liga. And the other one was that he'd bring Xavi back to the club one day. I think it's fairly obvious that he will make the move back to his club and become the manager. It's just a case of when, and does he really want to take over this failing, let's be honest, failing Barcelona squad and be the guy to steady the ship? Or does he want to start with a fresh Barcelona team who have identity, who have players, and basically who give Xavi a chance of being a success? Apparently, they don't really want to hire him while some of his former teammates is there because of favouritism and all this, that and the other, and you can kind of see why that's a good idea. You wouldn't want his former players sort of leaning on their playing career together and basically being able to decide what happens in the team with the selection and the tactics, this, that and the other. So there are my 5 potential replacements for Ronald Koeman at Barcelona. You guys let me know your thoughts down below. Check out everything else we've got going on. And until next time, I will see you guys later.